My name is Dan Proft. I'm a conservative Republican candidate for governor. One of the things I learned in business was that you give value first. So the value proposition of my candidacy, pretty simple. In a phrase, policy revolution. A complete rethinking and reordering of all of the big ticket systems in state government, not a single one of which is financially sustainable in its current form, not a single one of which serve the interests of folks who play by the rules in this state, the people who finance a state government that they receive very little back from in terms of either benefits or services. This contrasts me from my opponents who are content to manage the decline of this state, quibble on the margins about how we finance the status quo. Now, they don't say that explicitly, but it is implicit in the policy choices that they offer. And remember, this election is not about politicians' biographies. It is about the policy choices for us. So what does Dan Proft's policy revolution look like? Well, let's talk about tax and spend policy, which drive our business climate. And in this state, the policy choices we've made in this area have driven our business climate into the ground. Against a backdrop of 25-year high unemployment, Chicago Democrats would raise taxes on work and investment. Now, I learned in high school what you tax more, you get less of, so I'm not sure why we want less work or investment. My Republican opponents are content to just hold the line on taxes, but that's the same thing as saying the status quo is okay. And yet I find the status quo decidedly unacceptable, which is why I've proposed cutting the state income tax in half, cutting the state corporate income tax in half, eliminating the state estate tax, which is also a tax on business, particularly family businesses. On the spending side, because the two are inextricably linked, one-time spending cuts, politicians' promises to rein in runaway state spending, we've seen those don't work. What I'm calling for is statutory spending caps, permanently restraining the public sector from crowding out private sector investment. I would freeze state spending at its current level and only allow for year-over-year growth equal to inflation plus population growth. That's it. And let's say you have a good year, thanks to Dan's tax cuts, and revenue exceeds that allowable incremental growth. Any money in excess of that allowable growth would be rebated to taxpayers. No rainy day funds, no slush funds, no funny accounting. Put state government on that spending discipline that it must abide year over year in perpetuity. The only time that tax cuts and spending caps work is every single time they're tried and every place they've been tried. In California in the 80s, Colorado in the 90s, the Hancock Amendment in Missouri, what Mitch Daniels has done in Indiana. Every time tax cuts and spending caps are tried, they produce economic growth. We need to replicate successes in Illinois and stop perpetuating failures. One other system, K through 12 education. If we don't get K through 12 right, we open up a Pandora's box of all kinds of other social costs that we pay because we fail to set children on a path to be successful, independent adults. And that's in fact what we've done in this state, particularly in our urban school systems. So rather than tinkering on the margins of that system, a few more charter schools or merit pay for teachers, I've proposed changing the way the money flows and changing who gets to make spending decisions in K through 12 to expand opportunities to low to middle income families who have disproportionately been relegated to schools we know will fail them. I'm the only candidate to propose a statewide opportunity scholarship program that would open those doors of opportunity to ensure that every child has access to acquire the reading, writing, and critical thinking skills they need to find success in our global digital economy. The good news about policy revolution is that folks are signing up for it, even in some unexpected places. I've received the endorsement of State Senator Steve Rauschenberger, who is the lead budget negotiator for the Senate Republicans during his tenure in Springfield, who served with many of my opponents, but yet calls my ideas not only workable, but absolutely necessary to bring Illinois back to a place of economic vitality. I've received the endorsement of key suburban Republican organizations, the Niles, New Trier, and Schaumburg Republican organizations, the Southern Will County Republican organization, demonstrating that our message is resonating in big towns and small communities and urban centers and rural areas, because people are looking for something qualitatively different this time around. They want to see Springfield turned upside down. And that's the question I'm putting to Republican primary voters. If you are content to tinker on the margin and manage the decline of this state, then you should vote for any one of my opponents. If, however, you want to see Springfield turned upside down, then Dan Proft is your candidate for governor. Thank you.